Now, I know this child well. When he finished 3rd grade, the reports I had from the teachers were such that the thought of this child ever learning Gemara was preposterous. Now, the parents of this child and the child himself claim that at this point, anything that requires memory skills, he's great at. Spelling, vocabulary. He actually can now read fluently, when not long ago, he would never even open a book. The word like acquainted, his parent told me this, was Chinese to him. And now, he reads a half hour every night. Incidentally, back to the Gemara test, he passed the test. It's actually a dream come true, because as I said before, in 3rd grade, we would speak amongst ourselves, as the Rebbeim, the teachers, there's no hope. From time to time, I speak to the Arrowsmith, to the children at Arrowsmith themselves. And in general, I was amazed. Whenever I would speak to them, I would see how happy they are. And this wasn't so before they began Arrowsmith. Their whole countenance is different. There's an actual simcha sachayim. This is something that, as a principal, I cannot underestimate how important it is as parents. We know someone with simcha sachayim has confidence, self-esteem. So I really believe that the children are the best aid, best testimony to the effectiveness of this program. I just want to conclude my remarks with the following advice. Firstly, just for those naysayers, as I said before, who ask, well, maybe there'll be some other program out there that can do the same thing. I say, I challenge you, go find one. So far, we're in Tufshin Ayin, and our children have problems. They have problems learning, they have problems socializing. Go find another program.
I'd like to introduce my partner, Rachel Zimmerman, who took it upon herself to reach out to every educator she meets, because she's so passionate about bringing this program to their attention because of knowing what this program can do. Rachel Zimmerman spearheaded the grassroots, really parent-driven effort to bring the program to the girls' school, to Beit Yaakov Borough Park, so that girls can access it in Brooklyn. Rachel.
First and foremost, I just must mention a big thank you to Rabbi Ehrenreich, who had the vision, the heart, to allow Malki Deutsch and myself to bring the Arrowsmith program to Beit Yaakov Borough Park. With a bracha from Rav David Feinstein, we were on our way. I had spent time, money, and experienced a tremendous amount of heartache while getting my daughter to read. It was difficult, it was slow-moving, and over the years, eventually, she read. It worked, she read, but with difficulty, a lot of difficulty. When the topic of resource room was discussed, my daughter tells me, but Mom, once you get into resource room, you never get out. I hate to say it, she's right. So that ended that. So we did tutors, we did our own thing, but somehow it was difficult. Learning was very, very difficult. I say was, because Baruch Hashem, it no longer is. I wanted to get out of the rigmarole of tutors, of compensatory techniques, and of spending my entire night doing homework. I wanted for my child the best, what we all want for our children. And while researching the Arrowsmith program, I figured to myself, this sounds great. I'll buy the program, I'll use it at home, and my daughter will succeed. But Arrowsmith will only contract with the school, and now I see for very good reason. Baruch Hashem, it is amazing. It's only in our 2nd year, and we have amazing, amazing results. Many times people tell me, are you sure it's Arrowsmith? Maybe it's maturing. It would have happened anyway. I don't have an answer to that, but I do know one thing. The common denominator, the common shaliach for all these kids to mature in the same year was Arrowsmith. Whether it was a 3rd grader, an 8th grader, a 10th grader, they all matured. But they all had Arrowsmith. I'm going to tell you just a few quick little stories from our Beit Yaakov Arrowsmith program. Although Beit Yaakov is an elementary school, Rabbi Rabbi Ehrenreich did allow some of his own graduates who have been in high school to attend. And we had a 10th grader coming into Arrowsmith. She had been learning disabled her entire life in elementary school, having a difficult time in high school as well. And she came in and she did the program intensively, constantly, day in, day out. So she was really absent from a lot of schooling, and she was tutored, which she had always been. But in June, she took 3 regions. Every 10th grader in New York has to take these 3 regions. She achieved an 89 in math, a 92 in global, and a 92 in science. Pretty impressive. There was another girl in our program who her mother would always say is a space cadet. Everything went whoosh over her head. Even though she was old enough to go to the store or babysit, nobody trusted her to do that because she was so spacey. Now, she can do age-appropriate tasks. She can look you in the eye. Wow. And myself, my own story? Well, a few months into the program, I got a call from my daughter who was in the Arrowsmith classroom. "Ma, I could take notes." This was a big deal. My daughter's notes looked like a fill in the blanks, and every night we were busy on the phone trying to fill in all the things that she couldn't get. As the teacher was speaking, it was too quick. She looked at the girl's paper next to her. She tried to write it down. She missed the next thing. It was terrible. Her notes are beautiful now. Not only that, but this year, and I know it was mentioned before, but I guess this is pretty consistent with Arrowsmith. Actually, just last week, 3 girls in her class wanted her notes in order to study. We don't have a fax machine, but she very happily marched to the neighbor 3 times in a row to photocopy those notes. And she said, "Ma, they want my notes, mine." Academic success is great, but self-confidence, can't put a price on that. My nights are no longer filled with doing homework. This is a program that addresses the issues and throws the child right back into the classroom. You're not schlepping around for 12 years with modified testing and compensatory techniques. You're in, you address the issues, you get out. It's not going to turn anyone into an Einstein, but it will remove the impediments to learning so that that child can reach their full potential.
Around 3 years ago, I told you briefly about this book, The Brain That Changes Itself, and some of you were asking me who it was written by. It was written by Dr. Norman Deutsch. 3 years ago, when his book just came out, he was in New York, and he made a presentation. And at that presentation, I had the pleasure of meeting a beautiful young girl, Racha, or your Sharp, who lives in Riverdale. I met her and her parents, and what she said to me was, after hearing Dr. Deutsch's presentation, most specifically, he spoke in general, of course, about the book, and specifically about Arrowsmith, and what she said to me was, "I'm going to make a change in my life." I was thinking about going to Israel for seminary next year. She was graduating 12th grade. She said, "Instead, I want to find a way to access the Arrowsmith program." Imagine the Mesiras Nefesh, giving up on Israel, giving up on seminary. Her family and she decided she was going to move to Toronto for 2 years. She found a frum family to live with and access the Arrowsmith program through the lab school in Toronto, and she was there for 2 years and is now back and here with us today to share really her life story. Bracha.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today, and thank you especially to Mrs. Goodman, who invited me to share some of my experiences about how Arrowsmith changed my life. I believe now, as I believed then, that not only did Hashem send me to Arrowsmith to get better, but to share my experiences with as many people as I can, no matter what. I had been tested for a learning disability several times, and each time I came closer to my mystery diagnosis. But it was not until Arrowsmith that I felt empowered. After going through their testing and seeing the results, it was the first time that I can remember somebody explaining what was actually going on in my brain. There were no numbers, no ambiguities, just information. I went to Arrowsmith from the ages of 18 to 20. I'm 21 now, but those are some of the most beautiful years of my life. Because I tapped into areas that were not being used, I suddenly had many new possibilities open up for me. Areas that were weak were definitely strengthened, and I saw the world differently. I felt differently, and best of all, I wasn't falling through the cracks, so there was much less weight on my shoulders. It was the best feeling. There were many areas that I was weak in before I went to Arrowsmith, but I will tell you the ones that were the central basis of my troubles, and therefore, when they were corrected, aided me the most. One thing that really bothered me was that I didn't always understand why classmates were laughing at me or ignoring me. After all, if you have a thought, don't you just say it? After I did exercises that worked on nonverbal reasoning, it hasn't really been a problem. I can stop and think, and usually control myself, which makes social events easier. It also helped me to be aware of how I look to other people too, not just to myself, so I dress more weather and event appropriately now. I was also quite afraid to leave the house because of the fear that I would slip up and seem stupid if I talked to someone. The problem was that I just could not keep up with their conversation because I processed things more slowly. Thus, I was only comfortable talking to adults or younger children because they didn't judge me as harshly as my peers did. If I was talking to anyone else, I would begin to have an anxiety attack. After doing the exercises, I was actually able to hold a conversation, not bore people, and just sit back and laugh. I used to not be able to keep up with a class lecture, so I would have huge gaps in my notes. While I was processing one thought in my mind, even before I attempted to write anything down, the teacher had moved on. I also didn't get the main point of a lecture, so I wrote everything down. Sometimes I would put so much pressure on my pen that I would tear the paper, and there would always be eraser marks. After being at Arrowsmith, I am able to follow a speech and understand the main point. My pressure grip is also better, and there are no more torn pages. Practically, because of doing the exercises, I am able to put on makeup more easily, and I even heard that someone from my Arrowsmith class could play the guitar better because he was using his grip the right way. This is what the tracing program does. Lastly, I had so much trouble with math, telling time, and mechanical reasoning that I was in about the 3rd percentile when I first came to Arrowsmith. I can now tell time, make change, and I can now follow an instruction manual to put small and complicated things together, because my reasoning and my math skills are so improved. I am attending Turo College now, and I have made many acquaintances. I don't get lost, and I can take notes in class even if the professor is speaking very quickly. The funny thing is, people ask to copy my notes. It's hard to just say that one area was healed because, as I learned, all the areas are pretty much interdependent on each other. The great thing about this was that if I succeeded in one area, it would affect another area positively. That was a great feeling, knowing that everything was taking care of itself. To recap, because of Arrowsmith, I can now do puzzles and crosswords, find my way around, read maps more easily, manage my time, take neater, more cohesive notes, understand and make jokes, make friends, hold a two-sided conversation, make change, think more logically, plan a schedule, organize my room, and throw unnecessary things away because I can see the bigger picture. My anxiety is also markedly decreased. These are, believe it or not, just a few of the many things I can do now, and the fact that I am able to speak to you today proves it. A final thought before I end. Because my parents selflessly sent me to Arrowsmith and found out about the program for me, I have had many opportunities to speak about Arrowsmith. Each time I do, I tell others that this program is a chesed from Hashem. I believe that Hashem has sent you to this conference to be able to understand how much of a miracle and a bracha Barbara Arrowsmith Young's program is. By learning about this program and hopefully implementing it into your schools, you are saving lives. When you save a person, you save a world. Thank you.